Yes, we are live once again here with the Reentry Connect podcast. I'm your host. Yes, nothing is wasted with Yvette Battle. Oh my God, powerful story, y'all. Y'all just seen that absolute mugshot, but also the after effect picture showing that anybody can do it. Yes, indeed. Again, I'm your host, Keenan Hudson, and we have another powerful story tonight. But without further ado, I just got to give a little shout out to gpstransportation.net here in the city of Philadelphia, 215-774-9913. A great transportation service. If you need any type of transportation, whether it be handicap, transportation of your children to school, anywhere, medical transports, anything, feel free to mention my name and get a special rate for that transportation company. But without further ado, I'm going to get right into the show because I know many people have been waiting for this. And Miss Yvette, we thank you so much for coming and joining us. People have been waiting for your story for a long time. Miss Yvette, please go ahead and introduce yourself and let the people know who you are and where you're from.
So, good evening. Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor and a privilege. My name is Yvette. I current Yvette Battle. I currently live in Yonkers, New York, which is for people who are familiar on the borderline of the Bronx. They call it the Lost Borough. But I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky. If you can hear it, rest in peace to Breonna Taylor. So that is who I am. That's where I'm from.
Now, thank you so much for giving that great introduction. Miss Yvette, so if you can share, because I know a lot of people are just really curious about your testimony and the things that you do, but if you can share like some of your upbringing, and how was life for you growing up, where you were born and raised, and how did it turn into a struggle to where you lived a life on the streets?
So, my parents are from Virginia originally. My
Hmm.
mom, once she got pregnant with me, her and my father got married. He worked for the railroad, so he got transferred to Atlanta. I was actually born in Atlanta, but we moved when I was like 8 months old, so I don't remember it. We moved to Southern Indiana, Louisville, Kentucky. They call it Kentuckyana. It's like Jersey and New York. Everything's like blended. I grew up in an upper middle class neighborhood. I was actually raised with, very privileged financially. We
Hmm.
always had at least 2 to 3 cars. I grew up with, I had a huge backyard, front yard.
Hmm.
I had a dog, a turtle, fish. I had bird. Like I had a very what will be a protective factory in home. My
Yeah.
father has 4 or 5 masters. He actually, I remember watching my father preach his trial sermon. He is a pastor now, but I watched him go from a preacher to an associate minister. I was raised in church,
Hmm.
and I didn't know till later I was raised in church, but not in Christ. So we
Hmm.
was in church. Let me start. Sunday school, church, sometimes 2 or 3 services. That's back in
Hmm.
the 80s and 90s. So that's when the choirs were big with the robes and like we would travel. I mean, I spent, Monday would be no, Tuesday. Tuesday's Bible study, Monday's prayer meeting, Wednesday's usher board. Like, but we
Hmm.
actually liked going to church.
Hmm.
But I will say I didn't know till later on as I reflect back that the problem was that we went to church, but I don't think our house represented the church, the body of Christ. Um, Now, I was my father worked a lot and my mom, she never got past I think the 6th grade, 5th grade. But she was afforded to be a housewife. There was just I thought my home was I thought it was perfect. I went to
Hmm.
school with I don't think I only went. There's only 2 other kids of color in the elementary school I went to. I knew I was black, but I didn't know I was black. If that makes sense. I knew obviously I was black and brown, but I did not understand because I was a child. I didn't understand the differences. I was in a very racist and still racist town. I look back on some of the things and behaviors that my friends did, and my mom was very suspect, and I thought she was just overreacting. Now that I'm older and I look back, I understand what she was trying to protect me from.
Hmm.
Um, Growing up, I didn't realize I was, I was a daddy's girl. My brother is a mama's boy. I did not realize it was around the age of 12. is when everything changed really suddenly.
Hmm.
Once you go from, so it's like two little towns and they're separated. One, there's a lot of redlining where I'm from. So Jeffersonville is majority black and Clarksville is majority white, but there's only one middle school. And it's not just black, but it's poverty black. So when I went to middle school, that was my first time ever really around people from the hood. And that was my first time around other people. Because the only time I was really around other black people was when I went to church and the projects was across the street. And I used to always look at it. I always like, it just looked so much fun. It looked so exciting, and it's dark and there's the kids are still outside playing, and they get to wear, like, my parents always dressed me in very nice high-end clothes, but it was never the trend of what was going on. So it might be
Hmm.
$150 coat, which is a lot of money back then, but it's not a starter coat. I want a starter coat like everybody else is wearing. It ain't
Hmm.
Jordans, but they're these $200 loafers. So it was all, now look back, we were dressed very nice and classy, but ain't nobody trying to
Hmm.
hear that in the sixth grade. Like, I want to look fashionable like everybody else in the starter colors,
Hmm.
starter coats and the cross color and all those brands. When I went to middle school, I realized it was at that time. So I'm dealing around 11 years old to 18. You're dealing with identity or versus role confusion. So I'm realizing who I am. I'm going through puberty. I'm getting picked on a lot because had really, really long hair, and girls would be like, oh, she thinks she's cute because she light skinned, or she thinks she's cute because she has long hair. I never knew those are things that I should think I'm cute for. I didn't realize. So, and the perception people had of me was, now look back, it was their own issues. But I got picked on a lot, and I felt this need to prove my blackness. I felt this need that I had to make a name for myself. As I'm going through this, my mom and my father, I didn't know that they had marital issues. I didn't know, actually, my mom and dad do not like each other. They basically got married because they got pregnant with me. I'll
Hmm.
never forget the day. I remember I was sitting there. My mom was on the phone with somebody that she probably shouldn't have been, and all I heard her say was, "There's been a change of plans. Plans. He's getting transferred." And I heard her, and then when she hung up the phone, I was like, Mom, are we moving? And I got the stereotypical Black Christian mother answer, mind your business, this is adult business. And I remember going in my room and just looking at my canopy bed and like upset because I'm like, we're about to move. So the very next day, I'm looking out the screen door and I'm watching my dad pack his car. And he comes up, like, I'm sitting in the doorway and he comes up the driveway and I'm standing here and I said, Dad, are you moving? And he said, yes, and walked right past me. He left that day. It went from him coming back to visit every week to every other week to every couple of months. And that's when I really realized how much my mom favored my brother. It didn't matter. It didn't really notice. I didn't notice it when he was there. So I'm very girly, and my mom is very not. And I now know, I think she resents it because I guess it's a reflection of how much she's not. She was raised on a farm. She's very tomboyish. So my brother, she favored him with basketball, baseball, football, soccer, all those things she put him in. I wanted to be in ballet. I wanted to be in dance. I wanted to be in gymnastics. I got put in none of those things. And so between not feeling love, between not, I got whoopings for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I asked my
Hmm.
brother today if he ever had a whooping. He's like, I think I got one. I'm like, bro, I remember my last whooping. You talking about you think you got one? I know my whoopings. I just feel like it was always like her and him against me. And so, like, between all that going on, and mind you, I'm saying this, but this is not to bash mom. This is just me looking, reflecting on, like I said, my mom wasn't even
Hmm.
raised by her mother. Like, she literally, her mother moved across the street and said she couldn't come over when her man was there because he wasn't raising another man's kid. So she never was raised by her mother. So I now I can look back and say she couldn't give me a mother-daughter love because it wasn't given to her. But that doesn't mean it did not severely affect me.
Hmm.
So plus I have ADHD and it was not diagnosed at the time. So I got all this stimulation that I need and it's not going to anything progressive because school is easy for me. Like, that's a problem because I'm done with the work and now what? So um all this has happened at the same time. I learned in school that I'm really good at fighting. So again, like I said, I felt like I had to prove myself. So I started getting in fights and I got a high off of that. And I got high off the everybody talking about, Yvette fought so and so. Um, and I started to get really promiscuous. And I didn't even know why because it didn't feel good at all. Like, I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I letting these little boys in the house and do these things? And now I look back to it, it's because it was somebody was telling me I was good at something, and somebody wanted what I had, and plus it was the little boys, bad boys across the street in the projects. Like that's what I thought I wanted. I ended up getting expelled for bringing a butcher knife to school because I was threatened by another young lady, and my parents had to put me in the middle school back in the other town, and I flourished. I was on the cheerleading squad. I did great. I kept my grades up, and they found out we were using the wrong address. And that in the eighth grade, my dad didn't want to pay the money. He had the money. He did not want to put me back in the school, so I went back to the original school and got expelled again.
Mm.
I started running away from home. I didn't have nowhere to go, but I just knew I didn't want to be there. Um, my mom, I always used to say, like, I wish she did. I don't say this might sound crazy, just hear me out. I wish she smoked crack or did something because there was no, like, to be gone for hours or even a day and because you're with another dude, like, I get it now, but it was like, I had, it was very, the spirit of rejection was planted very, very young. The spirit of neglect. And so here I am getting, I started running away from home. They put me in a juvenile detention center. And then they sent me actually to a juvenile prison. I had a state number at the age of 15. My state number
Mm.
was 967589. I do not forget that because I had to say it every day in front of my door at 15 years old. I got
Wow. So
parole.
real quick.
Yes,
So
go
real
ahead.
quick. So you went from a household where you were being raised by good parents. You've seen that, or good parents per se. They kept you dressed nice, but you've seen other things. That seemed like it was a little bit greener on the
Mhm.
other side. However, you started dibble and dabbing with that. So eventually, like you said, you had ADHD, and you were getting in trouble in school and things like that. Now you land in prison at an early age. Now, was this state prison, federal?
It was
What
state.
type?
It's
So it
state, but
was
it's still
state.
it's juvenile. But it was like I was in a regrettable murder. I had a state
Okay.
number. Yeah.
So what land, if you don't mind, what landed you in prison at 15 years old?
Well, I kept running away from home, and they put me in a. It's funny because I got the same charge as an adult later. They put me in like this group home, but if they can't stop you. Like there's no locks on the door, but if you leave, it's an escape charge,
Yeah.
and I did.
Hmm.
So I had a Class C felony.
Oh, gotcha.
So that gave me my year in the prison, and I got paroled out. As soon as they let me out, I ran away again, and so I violated. And so I went back, and I had enough sense. So I was by age I should have been a junior in high school, but because of credits, and it wasn't because I couldn't do it, it's because I wasn't going to class. So
Hmm.
I was only a freshman. I got my GED while I was there, which is God knew that was I had an honors GED at 15, and I used to always say that like it was a bad thing. I got a GED in prison, but my assistant told me, she's like, Yvette, do you know that means you could have went to college at the age of 15? Because the
Mm.
GED is hard. I don't know if I can pass the GED test right now.
Hmm.
So it was definitely in me. So I got my GED then, and they discharged me at the age of 17 and basically said I was an adult. And that's when I came back to, because this is all the way in Indianapolis, back to Louisville, Indiana. And that's when I started becoming a stripper. And that's when things really started going left.
Okay, so now you went through all that and then you moved away
Well, it wasn't.
from
No, I
where
didn't
you
move
was
away because it's
looking.
like it's all. So Kentucky and Indiana are literally across the. People go back across
Oh,
the bridge
crap.
all day long.
Okay, okay.
So yes, but Louisville, Kentucky is like the big city. Where I'm from is called a little
Gotcha.
town called Clarksville. So yeah.
Gotcha. So then you decided to go full blown out in the streets. Now, what pulled you towards that direction of you getting into the streets or getting into the exotic clubs and things like that? Was it a male figure that pulled you that way? Was it something, did you need money? Like what type of things influenced you to get involved in that lifestyle?
So what's funny is I think about it, I'm like, I could have went home, but I didn't. So I would be outside, and this little boy, he was 19. And he passed away a couple years ago. He's actually
Mm.
tattooed on my chest, and I don't regret it. Me and him
Mhm.
were dating or whatever. His mom's like, she can't come in here, and so we would be outside. And I'll never forget. I had an interview at Wendy's, and then I walked to a strip club, and they told me come back that night. He told me to go to Wendy's. I went to the strip club. So
Wow. Wow.
so, and at first I wasn't really making any good money, but it kept me off the streets all night because I didn't have nowhere to
Mhm.
sleep at night. And I was sleeping like in parks or, wherever me and him would find somewhere to sleep. And he could went home, but he would sleep outside with me. Just cute little puppy dog. Like I look back on it, it was love for what we knew.
Hmm.
We almost got married, but with the dancing, as I started to evolve, I learned the game and I learned, I lost a lot of weight on purpose because like there's strip clubs and there's gentlemen's clubs. So I looked at it. I went to a gentleman's club. It was like sit stage. I could dance, but I didn't have the look because of like I was bigger or whatever. They said come back when you lose this weight. And I did. And then that's when like here I am. You couldn't tell me, excuse me, shit. Cause here I am. I'm in the top notch club. Like in the
Hmm.
city. I'm like, because some clubs will like, they will just hire anything. I worked with a girl with one arm, but some clubs,
Hmm.
they're like, they have like, you have to wear jewelry. You can't wear stuff that's too short. Like, yeah, I had to cover my tattoos and makeup. Like, it was a gentleman's club. So, and I really had the spirit of pride because I'm like, my family can't say nothing because there's nothing they can't do for me because I'm making this money.
Hmm.
Um, in the beginning, like I was still very much a little preppy suburban girl. I was still like with a certain crowd. And that's when, I was smoking weed and stuff. And I would drink, but I'm not really a drinker because that takes too long and I don't like the taste of alcohol.
Hmm.
And I'll never forget one day this girl was like, she was in the bathroom and she was tooting on something. And she was like, you want some? Everything I've ever got was just given to me. Like I didn't, it was like, here you go. Like it was like, actually my first high
Mm.
was cigarettes. I should have rewound it because that was my first real high. Like when I hit that
Okay.
Newport, I went from marbles to Newports. I was like, whoa. And so I was just trying to like, and then I remember the first time I smoked weed and I'll never forget. I pulled on it when I blew it out. I was like, where's the hit? I didn't, it's like I was looking for the rush that comes with crack long before I even knew what crack was.
Wow.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, 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 no. I'm just listening. Like you just said, you just so you actually experienced and actually sampled things. So you sampled the cigarettes, you went to marijuana, and then here it is. You're in this club. Life is going.
Yeah.
You're making this type of money. You're around a certain type of crowd of people, so you probably felt very elite.
What?
Things come to you. You know, you was entitled. And
What?
then all of a sudden you entered into a zone where something was offered to you. This was a
So
direction that was going to change your life.
what? So in the beginning with the coke, I'll never forget the girl. That's another thing. I remember I was leaving the club and she wanted me, she's like, you want to go to Clubette? So this is when all the raves started being a big thing. And I remember I was not gonna go. I was leaving and I was in the cab and she stopped me as I was getting about to get in the highway. She's like, I thought you was gonna go. So within the night, I tried like 4 different drugs. Like I was a person, like anything you passed to me, I would just take it. And I tried ecstasy and I did LSD and I was doing meth. I didn't like so now I know the reason. Okay, so I done some crystal meth. I done a lot, and I couldn't. I'm like I don't feel anything. So the medicine I take now for ADHD is in the category of methamphetamines. So here I am. I'm not even high. Like I was when I was introduced to cocaine. No, let me rewind. When I went to the
Mhm.
raves, it was like I found what I had been looking for my whole life. It was beautiful, the lights and the glow sticks, and everybody's like hippie. Like it was so beautiful. There was no like I don't do club scenes. I've never said let's go out for drinks and go to a nightclub. That's never been me.
Mhm.
But that scene, it was so beautiful, and it was like, and them drugs make you feel so fuzzy and warm inside, and
Mhm.
so. And again, it's being passed to me. So one day, we were at a place and this guy, like whatever level he's on, everybody else is on. And I'm doing these long rails and I'm not really feeling any. Well, I think I ain't feeling nothing. Everybody else is like, Yvette, your jaws are locked. But I'm like, I don't feel nothing. It's because of me having ADHD, the stimulation is what I've been needing. So this is how people
Mhm.
that are not treated. This is why people always want to talk about, especially in the church, don't give your kids meds or whatever. Like, okay, play around if you want to, because when you need glasses, you wear glasses. So if a child is missing dopamine in her brain, like I was, so I gravitated to a drug, not knowing it's actually everybody's high, and I feel normal for the first time in my life.
Wow.
I feel like, oh, I can really be productive. Like, so, but then when I started recognizing what the high felt like, it was too late. And the thing about that is that because I made so much money, I didn't know how addicted I was because I made it back the next day. So I wasn't feeling any consequences. And I had a look of what I thought addiction looked like. I wasn't raised in the street. So I thought people that do crack, everything's New Jack City. I'm not realizing you don't wake up in an abandoned house. You don't wake up one day in a crack in an alley. That is a process. And I was about to start my process.
Wow, wow. So you went through that. You felt, you was on top of the world. You had so much money. So at what time did you see that your life started spiraling downhill?
Well, now I go back. Now I look back. It happened really fast with all the party drugs and whatnot. But I ended up meeting. I went to Vegas. I danced in Vegas. I came back, and at this time, and now I'm looking back, things were starting to. Because I was like, even those clubs were like, okay, you didn't show up for work. They don't play about that. No call, no
Hmm.
show. And like, cause I'm too high. Like I crashed for the night before. So now I'm thinking back. I'm seeing where like I wasn't keeping up with stuff. I never forget one day I came back from a party and my best friend at the time, she was like, Yvette, I want you to go look at and look on the mattress. And when I went in there, it was the phone book and it was open. It was open to Jefferson County Alcohol and Drug Abuse Center. And I was like, bitch, I ain't no damn crackhead. She seen her friend go from, why do you need coke to go to work? Like you didn't need it before. And the thing about dancing is that I really don't want to talk to the men. I just want to dance. So in order to really make money, you make money off them drinks. It ain't really the dancing. So for a guy to buy you $100 bottle of J. Rose, which costs $3, you gotta convince every man to be what he wants you to be, and I don't want to do that. Like, I don't think that joke is funny. I don't like, but if I'm high off coke, everything you're saying is funny, and everything is fun. So it went from me thinking, oh, I would say, oh, I would only do it if people gave it to me. Then it went from, well, I'll buy it if and then it went from I need it, and then it went from I'm spending more than what's coming in. The whole time I'm buying it, and I make some more and buying some more. Um, Fast forward, I went to Vegas and I come back. I couldn't go back to the nice club. So there was a night, there was a gentleman there. There was a hood ninja, and he was giving this girl a whole bunch. Also, back in when I worked in the all black clubs, and it was a total different scene. And he's like, y'all take this pack, I'll come right back. So he comes back, and
Hmm.
there's a young man. I jump in the car. I'm like, you're cute. And I watched him split a key in half in front of me, and I'm like, okay, it's on. 22 years later, it's my baby's daddy. But I
Hmm.
went from being this preppy girl that did coke and party drugs and LSD and kumbaya and to the
Hmm.
hood. And
Right.
that was for when he fell in love high. I went into that apartment with him and I didn't know he had just hit a lick. He had just popped the trunk. There was a key in the trunk. This is 20 years ago, doesn't matter. And then he met me. So he got the work and he got a girl that ain't from the hood, don't know the hood, she's bad. And so he kept me in there for like 3 weeks. Like, I mean, he kept me hostage, but we was just in there just getting high. And all the addicts knew that he had a girl, so they was bringing him stuff to buy for me because they knew he would. And one day he couldn't hit, like, he started getting really paranoid. I had never seen nobody paranoid on coke before. I didn't even know that was the thing. In my environment, people are happy. So I'm telling him to do more and not knowing that I'm driving this ninja crazy because he's on the block. I don't live that life. So your paranoia is coming from reality. He came in the house one day, accused me of being with someone. I'm like, I haven't walked out this house in 3 weeks. I don't even know where I'm at. And he
Mm.
smacked the crap out of me. And that's when the
Wow.
TV started. Um, and
Wow.
he had just lost his mom who died from cancer and he used to call me mama. And so here I am, the codependency, like trying to love on him and thinking if I love him more, it will make him feel love. And it just, I ended up getting, and by that time, and that's another thing, because I had been smoking a little bit before I met him, but it was in a different environment. Because I'll never forget the day I was like, hey, have you ever smoked it? And he looked at me like, this is a drug dealer. I'm not thinking of this. I don't know what crack. Like he's like, did you just ask me if I've ever smoked crack? But in my environment, it's different. Hold on, baby. My
Hmm.
son have to get him to taekwondo. Um,
Hmm.
but so when he started hitting me, he would give me the hard. So I want to leave, but you giving me hard, and I ain't got to do nothing. And you know what
Wow.
I'm saying? So I'm paralyzed actually. And um we moved out and I kept trying to well, he wanted to get me pregnant and I thought I couldn't have kids because all the sex I had as a teenager, even those times I tried to get pregnant on purpose because I just wanted a baby. I wanted somebody to love me.
Hmm.
And that's another thing. I was a really bad liar in high school middle school, I never got to really to high school. Because I didn't like who I was. I would lie about my nationality.
Hmm.
I would make up stories. And now I know that's called disassociation.
Hmm.
Trying to make up because you're not happy with the reality you
Yeah.
have.
And right
I
there,
Go
right
ahead,
there,
I'm sorry.
before you continue, like you said, you make up a good point. So you say you were dealing with, like you say, the dissociations. You were dealing with identity crisis. You were also dealing with, like you say, the drug addiction. Then it led to the abuse. So then you started compromising. You
Hmm.
said a compromise in things. So you noticed that, like you said, so now that was the turning point in which your life started spiraling down. So now when you started spiraling down in that way, where did it lead after that? Like when did you started hitting rock bottom?
So here, it literally happened. Felt like it happened literally overnight. So it's really, one day I had a dream that I had a baby. I wake up, I'm looking, I'm like, oh my god, where's my baby? I'm like, I don't have a baby. 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. Right, and my baby's
Mhm.
father. At this point, I was trying to get a job. I'm trying not to use. I don't know that not that getting sober is more than just not. It's just stopping, right? I don't know. There's a beast that's in me that's just waiting for the next time. So one day I'm doing my hair and I go to look at my grease and there's a whole like at least like two, it's at least 2 ounces of hard. And I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna hit a piece and then I'll put it back. I didn't took the whole pack and ran off, right? Um,
Mhm.
but it was when I heard my baby's heartbeat and I went home and I'm looking for a stash. And my mind is saying, stop. You just found out you're pregnant. You heard the baby's heartbeat, but my hand wouldn't stop. And that's when I was like, wait a minute, this ain't how the body works. My brain's supposed to tell my hand what to do. And that's when I really, really knew that something was bigger. You would think that all the things I spit, it wasn't till then that I really am like, I'm pregnant. I've been waiting for this moment. And if I cry, it's not because I'm sad. It just blows my mind because people have so many ideas of pregnancy. And it's like, if you only knew this, this you don't give a damn about pregnancy. It don't take vacation. It don't take sick time. It doesn't
Mm.
care. And so it's a sickness. So I ended up leaving. Me and him split because like I kept taking this stuff and eventually it hurt me really bad. I can't really hear out my right ear. I have a ruptured membrane because of that. But I had an apartment and so all the little boys that I used to rip and run with and be promiscuous with, now they're drug dealers. And now I have an addiction. So that's when I got introduced to tricking. Right? So now, and so now my house, now I live in this is a small town. The projects are like 4 buildings. So my house is the hot house now. I live right behind the housing authority. So one day I get a knock on the door, and all the church mothers that helped raise me are at my house. And they're like, Yvette, you need to go to rehab. I'm like, well, what are we gonna do with Genesis? That's my son's name. They said, we'll take him to your mom's. I pack up my stuff. I go to the rehab. I slept for like 3 days. I genuinely left the rehab because I missed my son. I left the rehab. I went 2 blocks down the street. Some guys pulled over. They said, hey, we got some stuff. I said, you know what? I'm just gonna smoke and I'm gonna get this crack stuff out my system. And on August 13th, my son's first. This is me really reasoning with the devil, right? On August 13th, I'm gonna go in and I'll be done.
Mhm.
And that turned into a 10-year run. Literally overnight, I left the whole apartment. I left my son. I went from pillar to post. If it was like I stayed high for 10 years. If I wasn't turning a trick to get high, I was smoking the stuff. If I wasn't smoking the stuff, I was walking. If I wasn't walking, then I was smoking. If I wasn't smoking, and this is all I did for 10 years. The only breaks I took was jail. Because I started getting picking up for prostitution or loitering with the purpose of
Wow.
prostitution. I mean, that's where all my misdemeanors have started racking up.
Mhm.
When they put me in and it's like crazy because it's like, how did I go from a girl that can make 4,000 easy to tricking for $4? Because I know I can get a
Wow.
dime for $4. I have no
Wow.
shoes on. I'm in an abandoned house with rats and feces. I haven't washed my hair or let alone combed it in weeks. Like I just went in the alley and got clothes for myself. Like,
Wow.
and it's like I walked up and down the same street. One day I was like, Yvette, you've been walking up and down the same street for the last 2 years, the same block. And
So
it's
so
like,
Missy so Missy Vest, so
yes.
these mug shots right here are the actual mug shots within that 10-year span you're saying.
Yeah, those are a few. I couldn't, those are,
Oh,
weren't
these are
worth
just a
all of them.
few.
Yeah, I
Wow.
got
So
like
it was a
80 of
number of
them.
times, 80 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. But continue.
150 charges.
I didn't mean to. So this is a 10-year span. So this was between what ages? Because you got a lot of different age ranges that are
Yeah.
watching right now that are probably similar or a step away from being in the shoes you
So I
once
was
walked in.
22 because my
Wow.
son was about to turn one. I had him, and then when I stopped, that's fast forward to where I'm at now in New York, it was 32. So it was a 10-year, exactly a 10-year run.
10-year
I
run.
missed all my 20s.
It just strictly on the
I don't have
streets.
one picture from my 20s and other than mugshots. That's why people don't understand why I take so many selfies. I don't have one
Wow.
picture other than a mugshot for 10 years.
For 10 years. Wow. So you went through all of this. You were in a 10-year run. I know it came to a time in your life where you say, I cannot do this anymore.
Well, you know what's
Yeah,
crazy is
well,
that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, no, sure, go ahead. Share,
Even
share.
in jail, I never like got locked up and be like, I'm done. I knew I wasn't. As soon as I got out, I went right back to the strip. I was basically on a suicide mission, and I'll never remember the birthday I said I was going to go in. I'll never forget the
Okay.
day. I kept telling my mom to bring him to me. Eventually, like, Mom, I'm not, and she met me at the park. I, I I started seeing people die. I started seeing people get killed. Um, and I always just felt like I was gonna end up being in the wrong place, wrong time. I had been put in trunks. I had
Wow.
one time I had a junk out of a car on the highway. Um, Literally, I went rolling down the highway. I don't know why I thought I could land on my feet, but anyway, but I didn't know. But what I wasn't gonna do was stay in that car because I don't think I was gonna live. I've been, of course, the fake drug. Like none of these things. I didn't know people could give you fake drugs. I didn't know people would take your money and not come back. That was not the environment I started this stuff in. And so in the beginning, remember, I was a paranoid, but now I've learned. And plus, you're doing a drug. But after a while, like it's possible. Then my brain, and now I'm not even enjoying the high. Like every hit, I
Mm,
think people are coming out from the on the freaking roof. I think people are in the closet. I think like my heart is about to race. Like I've done a lot. Goddess is so good because I can't even believe how I haven't had a heart attack. And I
mm,
didn't smoke little either. That's another thing. I didn't like nobody playing around about how much I'm gonna smoke. So I'm gonna go out and make this money. I'm gonna put the freak what I want on there. But now I look
mm-hmm,
back on it, I should have had a heart attack or a stroke. I think one time I did have a mini stroke and God just, 'cause I remember my body moving and it's made me slow down for a couple like an hour. But going in and out of the jail, and it's really sad about the system because it was clear I had an issue and they never even offered. Now what I probably took I don't know, they put me in this work program that it's a jail. They let you have to look for work. You have to come back. If you don't come back, it's an escape charge. Now y'all know by this time I got like 60 charges. You know I'm not coming back. But
mm-hmm,
now so I go, I leave, I say I'm gonna take a hit, I'm gonna come back. I didn't, so that's how I got my felony. And I went back to prison as an adult. 190715 was my DOC. So and it's crazy because I can't get that. It won't be. It's an unexpungible charge, which I really don't care. None of my charges are expunged. I don't even want to get a certificate of relief. I don't need it. I don't.
mm-hmm,
Nothing has been able to stop me. Oh, excuse me. Nothing has been able to stop God in my life. So I've never even applied for it. For what? But anyway,
mm-hmm,
you said there was a point where I stopped. So I had met this guy. We was out in the streets. I'm basically prostituting. He ain't pimping me per se, but he's on crack too. And cause to me, pimping is like no. But it is times he's made deals with people like, yo, he got 40. He's gonna smoke crack. Now we're gonna get out together. But he would
mm-hmm,
also go do what he had to do. We go smoke together. So it was love for street crack addicts' lives. I make my moves. We get high. He make his moves. It's easier for a woman because I keep what I'm gonna work with. You know what I'm saying? You gotta go rob
mm-hmm,
somebody or whatever. So the neighborhood, he started getting hot because he was walking with me, and he said, my cousin has a door-to-door sales program. You can either come or go, but I have to leave. And I'm like, I'm going. So I just left everything and I started selling magazines door to door. I was clean for 30 days. We're traveling all across the country selling magazines door to door. And he was like, he didn't do that. He didn't do the sales part, but he was like security and he sold weed to the sales people.
Oh,
So
so
one
were you
day
sober at this time?
I was clean. Yes.
So you were clean
Yes.
for
For,
30 days.
for the first 30 days, first time in like 8 years. Yes.
For
And one day
first
I come,
30 days.
yes, I
Okay.
come home from work and he didn't hit the pipe. So now he didn't gave me a hit. And now,
Mm,
um, so now
relax.
every city we go to, we find out all you gotta do is wherever Martin Luther King Street is in any city, that's where the drugs are. Any city where Martin Luther King Street is, that is where the street the drug is. I get really mad because I've been to every state but a lot Hawaii and Alaska, and I didn't really get a chance to really enjoy what those places look like because I was on a mission every day. He ended up getting into it with one of his cousin's agents, and he became a liability. So he is from New York, and his cousin kicked him out, and we came to New York, and that's we brought again. I did not use. I went to a not rehab, a welfare program. I was clean. I think it was like 3 weeks to almost a month. One day I get off. He worked at a club as security, and it's like daylight, and I'm like, "Where's he at?" And he calls me. He's like, "Hey, remember that house you saw me by? Go over there." I open the door. He's high. Gives me a hit. So now I'm hitting the block again.
Mm,
So And I'm not blaming. I'm just saying I was not thinking about getting high. So we ended up, now I'm prostituting. I can make it happen anywhere. Like now I'm prostituting in Mount Vernon. Was basically running a crack house. It was a brothel. It was whatever, like whatever. We didn't have no. It was no floorboard. And I remember one day he's like, "Where's your period?" And I'm not really paying attention to that. It had been it had been almost 5 months. And one day, before I got a chance, somebody knocked on the door who had some stuff or had money, wanted to go buy it. I went to the clinic and I found out I was 5 months pregnant with my baby Josiah. Now mind you, by this time, that's all I've been doing for 10 years is smoking. Um,
Hmm.
I didn't even have a Medicaid card. I didn't have welfare. I didn't have nothing. So I wasn't gonna have it. He wanted me to have an abortion, and I called Planned Parenthood. And I told the lady, I said, well, I don't have any other option. And she's like, you have lots of options. And that blows my mind. And I hung up with her. And I remember I called my mom, who had been raising my son. And she's like, how you going to have a baby when you ain't taking care of the one you got? And I was like, I don't know. And mind you, by this time, I didn't believe in God anymore. I meant to mention that. I had
Hmm.
been stopped believing in God. So I was
Gotcha.
atheist. Yes. I had told people that Mary was a hoe and she just didn't want to get caught up for cheating. And I was into the stars. By the time I'm atheist, right? But I just knew I had to have him. So every month I said was going to be the last month we were going to stop because I can only have C-section. So I was supposed to have my son on February 29th, which is leap
Hmm.
year. So we set the appointment. Somebody comes to the house. He starts smoking, gives me a hit. Now I'm smoking. It's time to go to the hospital. I can't stop smoking. So I didn't go to the hospital. They call his sister. Where are you at? I'm like, oh, his father went out of town. I want him to be at the birth. The next day comes. I'm smoking still. So finally, the drugs run out around noon. I'm supposed to be at the hospital 6 in the morning. And I look at him and I was like, yo, this is not fair. Like, this ain't a doctor's appointment. It's a baby. Now, mind you, I have went days without eating at times. I'm smoking. I'm prostituting, pregnant. Anytime I can find my way to the hospital, but I'm gonna call your cab in 1 second, okay? To the doctor, I was losing weight. Um, I get to, I go noon was my last hit. We go to the hospital.
I'm
Uh,
sorry, Miss Yvette. Did you need to take care of something? Because I
yeah, I
could
need to
put
call my son's Uber so he can go to Taekwondo.
okay. Go ahead. Call it real quick.
Give
I'll call.
me, yeah,
Go
it's
ahead.
gonna make me go out, but I'm gonna be back in like
Go
45
ahead. Be
seconds.
back in.
Okay.
Okay. Come right back in. All right, y'all. Yeah, I'm not going to log off. I know she's going for a second. She's coming right back. But if y'all can hear her powerful story. I know it's a lot of people right now that's listening, especially a lot of young women that's probably, maybe going in the same direction as she once was. So, again, remember the Reentry Connect podcast is more so for people to share their story, to share their resources, letting you know if they went through something, you may not have to go through the same that they went through. So we're actually trying to help, along with, again, sharing resources, sharing different platforms as well. Showing that if you are going through an addiction or if you're going through a downward spiral, these are some like again experiences that you can learn from in advance. As I said, many people feel as though that they want to bottle themselves or try to put themselves in a box and not share or not necessarily share, but put their box in from learning from other people. You can always learn something from somebody. Never think that, you're too far out there that nobody's never been through what you've been through. No, there's always somebody that's been through something, what I mean, probably before you, and you can always learn from them. So, Miss Yvette, are you back?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, we're definitely right here. We definitely, we hit the climax, but we definitely want to get to how did you
Yes.
resolve in the life transformation, in general. So how did it dive into that? You say you were atheist, you went through all what you went through, and then all of a sudden, when did you have that encounter,
So
that
this is
life
what I'm about to
changing
share.
encounter, and where
So
was that?
when I went to have Josiah, who's driving me crazy right now
Mhm.
because of the Uber, um, I went to the hospital, like I said, at noon. They had to give me the epidural twice. They didn't know why. I knew why because I was so high. Um, and I'll never forget when I gave birth, the first thing I said to him was, "I'm so sorry." Um,
Mhm.
I sat in the hospital room for 3 days because of a C-section by myself. The father left, said he was gonna get something to eat, never came back. He ended up getting high. And every time the door opened, I just knew it was ACS coming to take my baby.
Mm.
After 3 days, they said, "Are you ready to go home?" I'm like, "What?" So they definitely drug test at the hospital I had him at. My son was not only not born addicted, he didn't have a trace of anything in him. When I tell you I smoked almost
Wow.
every day, like even like up to the literally his birth, like he should have been born with freaking an ear coming out his stomach. Like I like he God is so that's the moment when I said God is real. And
Wow.
um leaving from the hospital, I had nothing but a onesie. That's all I had for him was a onesie. That's all I had. And I went back to that basement apartment and his father got arrested. He got deported. And I had committed some crimes with the baby with me as a decoy. I didn't get clean immediately. And after the third time, Mount Vernon was like, I think this girl has a problem. And they sent me to a mommy and me rehab.
Hmm.
And I moved to Yonkers in a shelter. And that's where my journey started. So, because I just said, I can't lose another kid. Like I can't. I didn't mean to lose Genesis. I didn't mean for that to happen. Because the longer you run, the harder it is to go back. And
Hmm.
so and here it is. This baby's in my face. Like with Genesis, like he was already by that time like 12, 13. Like I don't even know him. Last time I seen him, he was 10 months. Like I went to visit sometimes, but I was going to rehab 5 days a week, 5 hours a day. Then I was
Hmm.
going to NA meetings and AA meetings every day. I got a sponsor. I was going to therapy. They had me on some medications and all those things. Like I always say that I see though, like when you're sick and you take NyQuil and it like breaks up the congestion in your chest and then you cough it out, like
Hmm.
all those things was breaking it up, right? And I relapsed after 8 months. Got an ACS. I've had three different ACS cases. Now I'm a mandated reporter. But um, the last time, do you have it? Can you give me 1 second? I'm so sorry.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Yes, but as she was saying, yeah, and we definitely commend her on her transparency because remember, a lot of times people don't know that people will bottle things inside and feel ashamed of the things that they've been through because they're afraid of how people may judge them. But for the most part, by Miss Yvette Battle sharing these things, I'm really praying and hoping that individuals are taking some things from this, or maybe be able to share this video with them and share, like, hey, listen to her story. It may not take it if you notice that it was in increments in which she was seeking help. It may have not happened overnight, but it was over time, where she was going seeking help. And one time she was sober for 30 days, relapsed. Another time she was sober for 8 months, but again, look at the incremental increment process in which she was going through. So you can continue.
Okay. So um I relapsed and then things just spiraled really fast and I ended up getting an ACS case. And it was the last time they told me that if I gave them one more drip of urine, I was gonna be going inpatient. And I'm like, inpatient sounds like incarceration. So what I'm not doing, you ain't putting me in nowhere. And I still pushed like I'm a person that pushes buttons. Like I'm gonna push till I can't push no more. And I'll never forget I the drug dealer, he came and brought it to me. And after I smoked, I texted him and I said, I don't care how much money I got, please never bring me anything else.
Mm,
And he never had to worry about that. I remember that my counselor had been away on vacation, and I was like, okay, I don't even know if I pissed dirty. It's been 4 days, and I'll never forget when I had a dream. I'm a prophet. I had a dream, and I had a dream. I was sitting in the office, and they told me I was dirty, and I was. And I'll never forget. I came into her office, and she was like, "Big, your urine's dirty." And I was like, "I promise, I'm done." She's like, "I am about to put my license on the line for you." She went in there. She lied. Well, she didn't lie. She stretched the truth. And she told me the other day, you made sure I never regretted it. Um, it wasn't until I met Jesus. So all those things prepared me for when I had an encounter with Jesus. Because even though I was clean, like my addiction was still manifesting in other ways. So now I went back to like I used to be bulimic as a teenager. I didn't go with because my story is so intersectional. There's no way I can tell. There's so many different things that people can relate to. But I went back to that because I gained a lot of weight, and so I was throwing up my food, and then I was obsessed with like perfection, like, and then I met Jesus, and that last time when I tried, like, I stopped using, like, that was the hardest. Like, I remember sitting in my apartment and just crying, and all I kept hearing was "Go cop, go cop, go cop," and I just kept reading Psalms 91 over and over. I read that like 80 times a day one time, and the
Mm.
obsession left, and I haven't had a single thought about using in 11 years. I don't believe everybody's an addict forever. Some
Wow.
people are. I got other struggles, best believe that, but that ain't one of them. Um, I went back. I went to college. I went to college because I didn't mean to go to college. I actually went because when I graduated from rehab, I needed to stay busy. Decided to Uber's downstairs. Okay.
Mhm.
He has to go to the top one though.
So hold up. So you had a spiritual encounter
Mm-hmm.
that literally changed your life.
Mm-hmm.
So it changed your life due to your spiritual encounter. So so now here it is. You go into this process. Now I know it was like you said. You know it wasn't easy. Um. So when your life started changing, what type of things were you involving yourself in? I know you say you started going to school, and it's been 10 years since all of this happened.
Mm-hmm.
But what did you start doing? Like, how did you? Who did you start surrounding yourself with?
Oh, so like being an NA, that is nothing but like, it's so here's the thing, NA and all that, it's actually based on biblical principles, right? Even though they say higher power, they removed it, but because it's based on biblical principles, the word remains the same, and His word won't return void. So that is a community ran by all just other people who will either want to call themselves addicts or not. That was a community I started building, and then
Mm-hmm.
going to the rehab, it was a community I built. Then I started going to church, and then I went to college originally like just to stay busy. I didn't want to relapse, and I thought I was going to get a certification in business management. She's like, "You got a GED?" Remember, I got the GED. She's like, "You might as well go to college." I was like, "Okay." I started going to college. I That first test I got, it was a D. Like I hadn't been to school in like 20 years. I never got past the eighth grade. So I didn't know how to cite papers. I didn't know any of that, but I know I didn't like that D. So I started going to the tutoring station and I started making nothing but A's, and I started getting scholarships and money. Like WCC, Western Community College, they said they help you out a lot. And so I couldn't work. There's no way I was going to get clean, go to college, get my brain together, go through deliverance, and raise a baby. So I just depended on the scholarships and the welfare money. I realized I was really good at school, and that became my drive. I didn't plan on going past my associates, and there's like, Yvette, you can't get a decent job with that. So I got my bachelor's, and then I always thought like maybe I'm just at an easy college. How am I making these A's? So then I went to
Wow.
Lehman, and I was like, oh, I'm still making A's. I'm not a fluke. People think because I post my grades that I'm showing off. I'm like, look, I'm just a surprise. I'm surprised at y'all because every semester I just
Wow.
knew was going to be the semester that I was going to
Mm.
fail, and everybody's going to know I was a fluke, and I'm not supposed to be here. But then I want my master's, and then I'm like, I might as well get my license now. And so that's where I should be. My doctorate should be within the next month. I got to finish this book.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's a very powerful, powerful story right there. So you went from all of that. Now here it is. You was able to graduate college after dropping out. Didn't even go through high school. You went, got your GED, then you turn around, you went, like you said, you got your associates, your bachelor's, your master's. Now you're about to be a doctor. So we're actually going to be calling you Dr. Battle pretty soon.
Yeah. I didn't
That
want to do
that's
that
a
either. I tried to run
that's a
from that too.
blessing. That's a blessing in itself. Like you said, remembering that, that's how we overcome, not just by the blood of the lamb, but it's of the word
Word.
of your testimony. So your testimony, I'm telling you, listen, I got to shout out some of these people right now that's really like they're on LinkedIn, Facebook. Ms. Winnie, she said, I thank you so much for sharing a part of her powerful testimony. She is being so open and transparent. God is going to use her testimony. Absolutely. Then
Amen.
you got some people over here on Instagram. It may not pop up over here, but some of the people over Instagram, you got DQ, the Don. He says, God bless your kids with a good, sober mother. He is pleased with your testimony. It is powerful and life changing. He says he knows the feeling of the day one is the hardest. Also, along the wife says, along if I found me. She says, Miss Amanda, she says, bless for your transparency. That's a great thing there, and I'm telling you, like everything that you're sharing, like I said, is very powerful. And again, I know we could go all night, and like I said, the tops we're gonna go is an hour, so we got like 10 minutes,
Yes.
which is cool. And I'm just, I want you to share more, like whatever you want to share, whatever's on your heart. Eventually, I will ask you if you can motivate individuals that's probably locked down, whether they're in a recovery house, an NAAA house. Like you said, you've pretty much been through a lot of things around the whole board. You can speak, like I spoke to you before, the things that you speak about, you're going to be on that road 24/7, like literally just speaking to everybody to hear your testimony, especially a lot of at-risk youth that are out here. So if you can just share just something, if you wanted to motivate, if you could. So before we continue, if you can motivate those individuals right now that's in a halfway house, a jail cell, or even on the streets right now looking at this, what would you say?
Wow. I would one thing I would really want to say is that it's easier to stay clean than it is to get clean. Right? So, like I said, I don't have those urges at all, but I do know what it was like. And I can promise you that when you get that, because when you get that indication or thought to use, remember how hard and the work you had to put in. It's not the 3 days after you took the hit that got you in trouble. It's not the $250 or smoking up your Christmas. It's that first hit that got you in trouble. It's the first one that sent you off to the races. You got to play the whole tape out. Like, even though I don't claim that I'm an addict anymore, um, I'm not. That doesn't mean I think I can go smoke crack. Like, I'm very clear that if I smoke a piece of crack right now, everything I've acquired will be done by this end of this weekend, and then I'm for
Mm,
sale, and I'm gonna try to sell you too. Like, I'm very. I don't know how to do anything light, so I'm gonna go hard. I don't think I can go drink. But I don't want to either. But I think sometimes when people hear me say that, I'm not. I'm not saying that I'm delivered from the disease that if I use I'm not ever going to be successful, and neither are you, right? If you're in these places, like the disease will tell you that you can do it a different way, and you can work it. You cannot use successfully. Some people can go have a drink and then go home for the rest of the night. We're
mhm,
not wired like that, and that's something that if people would understand is that sickness, oh, it's a choice. But if you've seen it more as a disease, you would understand that it's not about willpower. You have a disorder that says that does not have breaks. Like, it's not gonna see. Most people be like, oh, I stayed out for 2 days. I'm not doing that again. Not us. We gonna do it again and again. Like, so
gotcha.
that's one thing. And as far as like what I will say I love about social media is that people talk about, oh, you share too much, you put too much of your business. I didn't know social media is only for posting food and your highlights of your life. I'm gonna keep it real because if maybe social media had been around when I was at that age, I would have seen that it's a progressive thing. I didn't wake up one day in the alley. Like, so
Hmm.
like I said, I started out in a I said that would never be me. Like, what? God humbled me. So, and then over the years, there's been people that have reached out and say, I've never thought about no crack, but you made me question, like, maybe I am smoking weed too much. Maybe I do drink it. Like, I share about that alcohol is more dangerous than every illicit drug. There's more
Mm,
alcohol related deaths every year than heroin. Like, so I want to encourage that if you're on that path and you're really believing that it can't be you or you got control of this, why delay what can be stopped now? Does your rock bottom have to be death? Does your rock bottom have to be jail? Does your rock bottom have to be losing a kid, losing a limb, having something amputated? I've seen people like, my oldest son does live with me again. He just moved back a year ago. He lives here. There's trauma. He was abandoned by his mom. It's been messy, but it's also been beautiful. So that's something that God has afforded me. That both my sons are in this house the other day playing. My youngest one plays the drums. He plays the sats and the keys. That's something that some women don't ever get those chances back again.
mm,
And God has afforded me so to motivate another mother, like, don't run from what's inevitable because it's about you trying to save face. I don't want to go back and visit without a gift, or Either you're gonna come back now or you're gonna let this drug run you out, and then you gotta answer to a grown man. I remember I used to say my biggest fear was my son growing up and serving me one day. And I'm so glad I never had to go through that. But I'd seen it so much of men, boys, young, drug dealers selling to their own mom. And like that was one of my biggest fears.
Mm.
Um, so the motivation I want to say, and what I never tell people, if I can do it, you can do it, because that's not necessarily true. Maybe you can't go to college, maybe, or not from what I want to call. Because I'm a certified drug counselor, and I'm also a board certified Christian counselor. I have several credentials because my God gave me a superpower in my brain where when I'm focused, it works for my good. But maybe
Hmm.
He's called you to be a cook. Maybe He's called you. So just because I don't like when people say that, because it's no, it ain't if I can do it, you can do it. But if I can do what God's called me to do, you can do what He's called you to do. And that's
Wow.
what I do tell people. I never tell people if I can do it, because maybe it ain't for college ain't for everybody.
Yeah.
NA
True.
definitely is not for. I don't do NA anymore. So
Hmm.
there's smart recovery, there's celebrate recovery, there's faith based. Like it doesn't. So I just want to encourage, find what works for you, but you got to find something.
Yes, yes. Thank you. So well, I really appreciate that. Really appreciate that a lot. Um, and I definitely wanted, because it's a lot of people that was on here, like literally giving shout outs. You got here, Loida Melendez. She gives her prayers up.
Loida,
She
my
says, yes.
baby.
Oh, so she okay.
That's my Loida
So,
gang
Loida,
gang. That's my
yeah.
gang to my gang. I love her.
Oh, okay, okay. Then you got this from Bree, Daniela. Danielle, she said, beautiful story. Appreciate your story. Somebody podcast readiness for Coach Aisha. Okay. Said, thank you for sharing your story. So it's a lot of people out here just giving you shout outs over here on Instagram. Jacqueline Murray, Courtney Carney. You got
That's
so
my
many
people.
people. Yeah, your
That's my
peoples, they
church
over here. They
family.
definitely tuned in. My Ismail. We got big ups and small downs. So you got a lot of people. Like I say, some people that's on Instagram that you just don't see over here. But a lot of stuff. You got somebody on here, Mr. Gary Bullard. He said, "You'll never be an addict. You had an addiction. You're created noble. Rolls into that which God created you to be. O son of spirit." It said, "Noble, I have created thee. Yo, thou hast abased thyself, raised and unto for which thou was created." But we appreciate you. Thank you so much, Mr. Gary, for those words. Um, but without further ado, Miss Yvette, we appreciate it. We see the title behind your name. You are soon going to be a doctor. And please, when you do become a doctor, when you do celebrate, we want you to definitely come back on here as well to celebrate your doctorate degree.
Thank
You know,
you.
it really motivates me as well. Like, wow, you going back to school and doing these things. Like you said, having ADHD. I can relate to that too. I had ADHD. I was getting kicked out of schools in fights. But anytime I focused and zoned out on something, whether it was music, whether it was writing a book, whether it was attending any classes, trade school, and anything,
Yes.
I zoned out and I excelled at it. You
Yes.
see what I'm saying? So, and then that's why I encourage a lot of individuals that I talk to, a lot of parents. I tell them, when your kid is having ADHD, you have to gear their focus on something they can take it out on, rather it be
Yes.
a sport. Most kids, they do well in sports,
That's why
but a
my
lot
son's
of time,
taekwondo.
you see what I'm saying? Put them in sports, put them in boxing. But a lot of times parents want to be lazy, say, "Oh, I'm not sending them there," or put them in football.
Yeah.
You got to do something so you can get that aggression, get that out of them. Keeping them in the house all day, pacifying them with a tablet or a phone is not a good thing. But look, I'm not going to burn this thing down. Like I said, we've been on here an hour. Miss Yvette Battle, I really appreciate everything. Thank you so much. But without further ado, we're going to get ready to end this broadcast. Also, I wanted you to shout out your pastor and your ministry.
Yes, I was gonna go there. So I just want to give it. I'm a faithful member. I'm a minister. Church at the Well. My pastor is Pastor Michael Dent.
Mhm.
And I do, if you don't mind. So I do every first and third Friday. I have a 12-step recovery ministry. We meet in person in Yonkers, but every second and fourth Thursday we meet on Zoom. So because people are like, Yvette, like, what about us? The people that there's thousands of people I've never met who've been following my journey for years, and I feel like I know them. So I can
Hmm.
share the flyer with you if you don't mind, because
Yeah, sure. I mean, we could definitely we can share, and what we'll do is once the video is shared, we'll share it in the stories, because right now if you send it to me, I know it'll take a little time for us
yes.
to pull up, but it's okay. So be on the lookout, because she says she has a 12-step recovery
And it's
class, you said?
there's over 30 addictions on the front of this. You could be
Very
addicted
good.
you could be addicted
Okay.
to anger.
Wow. Yeah, and that's powerful. So that's something we really want to look into. So what we're gonna do is be on the lookout to looking for that specific class. Also, Yvette, if they wanted to, Miss Yvette, if they wanted to contact or see your social media, how do they see your? Where was your social medias under?
Well, I think it's both under my name, Yvette Battle
Okay.
LMSW. But my handle name is the Black Sober Social Worker.
Okay. Cool. So again, Mr. Gary, we're going to be getting the Zoom link out. If you look at some of our social medias, we're going to have it inside the stories, and we may even post it on the actual social medias as well. So be on the lookout for that. But without further ado,
Thank you so
everybody have a
much.
wonderful night.